Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, folks. How are you doing today? We are going to talk with Dana from Himlane about what I believe is the number one thing you need to focus on when you are investing out of state or out of area. And that is building your on-ground team. So Dana, this is a great topic. Love to talk about it. Also love to talk about how Himlane helps facilitate that. But this is, you've got to have boots on the ground. You've got to have boots on the ground you can trust. You got to have boots on the ground that are going to tell you the truth instead of half truths and kind of sort ofs and things of that nature. So what are you thinking about this topic?
Yeah, so I think I've heard too many horror stories, right? Stories where like the property manager said they weren't collecting the rent and the tenant wasn't paying it, and the owner went there and suddenly the tenant was like, no, I've been paying to the property manager this whole time. And it was like, wait a second, how did any of this happen? Yeah. And there's some other things with it that just kind of through time I found is far more important than other things. And whether it's you live local and you're self-managing your property and you're building out your contractor network, which you need to do.
Yes.
Or if you're out of state and you're having to build also property management into place, you get these spreadsheets with all these questions to ask the property managers, like how many days has the property been on market, and or what's the average that you have the property on market, and how do you screen tenants, and all of this stuff that goes into the questions that you want to ask. How many doors do you have under management? I think all of that's important. Have a spreadsheet and keep it, right? How many employees do you have for the number of rental properties you have? Like there's a huge list, but there's some things I found that just make it super successful. And this is this is never in the spreadsheet. The first is how quickly they are to respond. So this is an operations game.
Yep.
This is operations. This is not, something where it's strategic and the property manager or the leasing agent has to think about things. I look at is, hey, how quickly can they respond to me? It takes them 3 days to respond to an email when they're trying to sell me on their leasing or property management services. That's a really bad sign, right? I even want the response, even if I send them a text message and they're like, hey, yes, no worries, I'm going to shoot you an email or shoot me an email. And then I find out, oh, they like to communicate via email, right? That's fine. But that's a question that no one actually looks at or tracks in their like spreadsheet.
Not on mine.
You can't do it in a spreadsheet, but you can do it based on having that experience with them in that 30 days that you're trying to figure out who to work with, is who's going to be fast and respond. And here's why it's important. It's the same thing with tenants. I've seen way too many leasing agents and property managers lose good tenants in the marketing when you're advertising because they didn't respond to them fast enough. The tenant request came in on a Friday, and it wasn't until Monday or Tuesday they got back to the tenant. Meanwhile, the tenant spent Saturday and Sunday going and looking at the property, right? Yeah. And so that would be the first thing that I would say. The other one is just having systems in place, right? With any operational process, you have to have systems in place and to mitigate risk. Mm-hmm. And make sure that anything that ever went wrong never happens again. Yep. And so really understanding what are their processes, what are they using, why are they using them, what else have they looked at to make sure they have a set process. And then the third one that I think is important that actually can be on your spreadsheet is the question of how many years have you been in this business? Right? Because I do think over time, the more and more you're in the business, the more you just really understand how your market works, really understand tenants. And there are things that come up that even if you're a new agent and you're the smartest person in the world, you don't understand unless you've physically been in that situation of dealing with evictions, dealing with professional tenants, dealing with tenants who had a co-signer and this and that, dealing with pets in the property, dealing with properties that have been destroyed, all of that kind of stuff. That is like the one question I would say from the spreadsheet that I put even more weight to than anything else. People have been in the industry for long enough and stay in it. understand the realities of property management, and we'll do a lot better. So I always get worried when someone's like, I'm just getting into it. It's like, I don't care if you have a, law degree from Yale or whatever it is, you're going to make those mistakes until you've actually been through the process. So those are the things that I would say. Of course, have your spreadsheet. There's tons of lists out there. These are the questions to ask, but that would be on the leasing agent side. But I want to hear your leasing agent side before I go into contractors.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things that are just wonderful there. The other thing that I think HIMLane will help folks or platforms like it is history, because these are all great things to kind of qualify who makes your list. But I've been doing this for 20 years, and people might be great for the first couple of years, and then life changes. Maybe they grow in their business. You were the most important person. Now you're not. There's lots of things that could change. So I love having the history, right? That's a big thing, right? I've actually just this week, I'm working on a house that we remodeled in 2010. And I actually went back to the history to look at who remodeled it for me, because there were some things that were done less than perfectly, right? When we kind of broke it down, and I'm like, oh, that's interesting, right? So make sure we don't use that person. And that's 10 years. So I love the history aspect, because I think a lot of people can look good the first time, second time, third time, but by the fourth time, you really see who they're all about. So that's another aspect I like.
Yeah. And it's hard to get reviews online, because some things we've learned, like we ask owners to review the property managers and agents they're working with on HIMLane. And we say it's not shared with them, but please do a review. And if they don't, we send them a reminder to do it. Part of the reason is to get that data, because it's almost like the property managers, and some of them that have no reviews, it's like they're doing their job so well. Everyone loves them. No news is good news if you're always getting your rent. And they're not trying to get reviews online because they know they grow through referrals.
Yeah, exactly.
And you don't miss that. You miss that person, right? Because of that. It's the same with contractors as well. Versus the ones who are online with reviews. Sometimes they have tons of negative reviews, because that's really where people get ringed, and that's a bad sign. But it's hard because there's not like a review website that you can go to say, here's all the property managers in your area, and here's what all of their owners think. You have 1 or 2 reviews to go off of. You have no idea whether that person is, sometimes you'll see some review from a tenant who got really upset because they didn't get the place, and the property manager should have done a better job communicating where they were in the process. Don't get me wrong, but that one review might not be used to determine the person. No good place for all of those reviews to really understand how good people are.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, I think building out, I go this far all the time. When I talk about out of state, it kind of scares me. I don't do it. But building the on-ground team is the most important thing, right? A good on-ground team will make a bad market good. A bad on-ground team will make the best market horrible, right? That's how much I believe in the on-ground team. So I love what you're doing here. Love what HIMLane has. I didn't even know about those online reviews. That's genius. As the community grows, you will get to see more and more of real life. So folks, there's a 30-day trial link below. If you're following one rental at a time, even if you have 0 rentals, take the 30-day trial, get your hands dirty, see what's going on. There's a discount when you get your first property. It's a lot of fun. So Dana, this has been a great conversation. We're on to topic number 3.
Great. Thanks, Michael.